So back to the point here. An interesting thing happened in February. And most of you felt it to one degree or the other, but what do? You treat it like a dream. Well, that was just a month. I hope that doesn't happen again real soon. Or you shrug it off and say, well, just the energies are high. But what was really going on this month? What really happened this month? Well, allow me to explain.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting phenomena. So after millions and millions and millions and millions of years of being on cycles that slowly change, after millions of years of basically having the same biology and the same mental process, millions of years of nature going through its evolution, its life-death process, its renewal and then dying process year after year after year. After eons of time of things just being in pattern or in cycles, renewing, but that kind of means like taking the same old energies and just kind of reshaping them, maybe doing a little pruning of the energy tree, but basically just renewing. An interesting thing happened in the mid to later part of February. This planet became newing rather than renewing. What do I mean by that? That means that consciousness, desire, and passion reached a certain point on this planet, never ever done before, that from henceforth, everything will have to be new. Wow. What does that mean? I get a new car? I walk out my... Yeah, actually. Now, come back to the simple premise that everything has stayed in patterns for a long time. It changes slowly. That's your real frustration. It just damn changes so slowly. Everything in patterns. Suddenly, a point, you could say kind of a threshold was reached on the planet. So now, everything has to be nude rather than renewed.
Nude?
Nude. If anybody takes their clothes off and runs around right now, I'll understand. Everything will be new. Now, I'm going to talk more about that in a lot more detail in our mid-year pronost. Technology is supporting that. And technology is not causing it, but technology is supporting that. Everything will be new, and this is going to be different because you say, okay, well, geez, I moved to a new house, so isn't that something new in my life? Nah, that's a cycle. That's just, still a house. It's just moving from one place to another place. It's a renew rather than totally new. You say, well, I quit my job and I got a new job, paying more money, and I like it better. Well, that's a renewal. That's not new. Or you say, I traded in my car and got a new car. No, it's still a car. It's not new. It's just a renew. It's just kind of like even your lifetimes. You come in for a lifetime. It's like, well, it's a new incarnation. It's like, no, you just renewed an old contract, to come back again into the old biology and the old mind. Funny thing happened in February. Everything is going to have to go new. Off cycle, out of pattern. And as wonderful as that sounds, that should be terribly frightening to most people other than you, because this is what you've wanted. Everything goes new. You're seeing it, but you're going to see it continue, and it's going to continue to feel intense unless you know what's really happening energetically. You're going to see it in, Linda used the example before, politics. It's going to go new. The old way of doing it, I believe you were talking about the elections before, something is going to come along to blow it apart. It has to be. It has to be. And
it's on track. It's on track.
Yes, but on the same token, I say that, and you say, well, look at the one who is delivering new. or the messenger, the deliverer, well, what a bozo, or whatever you happen to feel. I don't have any preferences one way or the other. And you say, well, what an idiot. Well, look what's really happening. It's not about an idiot. It's about things changing. Something had to shake the tree. Something had to shake things apart, blow it apart, and it's happening. And a lot of people are getting very frightened because it takes away their little power base. It takes away their cycles, their patterns, their comfort levels. They get frightened. Frightened fear. And I hope you've all had a good dose of fear lately. No, I mean that because fear has an incredible energy in it. It's a combination of the dynamics of magnetic, gravitational, and electrical, sucking everything in. That's what happens when you get into true fear. I'm sure you've all felt absolute, real fear, not just a little nervousness, but real fear. It's like, if you would envision it for a moment, fear causes everything to collapse into itself, causes it to constrict and contract, and to go into kind of a darkness. It's trying to find safety, but it's not safe no matter what. It tries to go, in fear, you try to go out of existence, out of shining your light. That's the last thing you want to do. It's actually, fear at times can be a very, very dynamic force for change. It can blow things apart because fear will take you down to the core level of things. Fear doesn't care about Machio. When you try Machio on fear, it doesn't work. Fear doesn't care about little nice cliches or fear. You can say, well, I'm going to go get a massage to get over my fear. I don't think so. You'll never walk out the door. You're in too much fear. How can you get a massage? So fear has that incredible, it's like the black hole of gravitational, electrical, and magnetic forces. It just sucks you in. But then it blows everything apart. It blows apart all of the old structures if you allow it. People get stuck in fear for a long time. Sometimes they get caught up in it, particularly on the medication. Sorry to keep bringing that up, but they're not a good thing. You start taking medication to overcome your fear, and suddenly you're stuck in it. You'll eventually get out, but for most of you, that fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen next, can be an incredible thing. It brings you to your moment of truth and light, what's really important. So, back to the main point. Everything goes new now. This planet can no longer stay in cycles. How long will this take? I don't know. It's not really the important part. Hundreds, thousands of years, who knows? More like hundreds. But everything changes now. Instead of renewing, it's going to set out on a path for new. It may go through a few more renewals before it comes to new. It may destruct before it comes to new, but everything goes to new. Watch it. Pay attention now to what's happening in the world. A lot of you have gone kind of into your caves and not wanted to see what's happening in the world. But now's a good time to come out and watch as this dynamic takes place in the world. It ties in a lot to what I talked about in Pronost, but those are just forces that are supporting going to new. New is going to affect government, finance, all the typical categories, food, health, everything else. A lot of them will break down first, but then they're going to go to new. What is new? It means something that is out of the old rut, something that is, you would say, quantum, something that is so different than how it was done before that it will be difficult to try to even imagine it. It will try to be difficult to figure it out, at least in the old human mind, because the old human mind is in renewal rather than going new. But that brings me to another point, that the first thing you're going to notice, and have been noticing, in going new, By the way, isn't it interesting? New is also like the word Knew, the English word new. So you're kind of new. You knew that it was going to go new. Yes, new. You can write that down.
Which part?
New.
Okay, is that point 2?
No, that was just a distraction.
Oh.
So everything goes new. And it starts, as you know, with the mind and body, with you personally. And it starts with things like we've been talking about, ancestral freedom. That was a tough one. Much tougher than you might have imagined. Much tougher than I ever let on was going to be for you, for many of you, because you've had lifetimes of that same ancestral pattern or cycle. To consciously say that I'm going to get off of it, to say I'm releasing the ancestral energies, well, you were just choosing, you were just validating a process that was happening anyway. You weren't the one doing it, it was happening. You finally gave it approval, you could say. You validated it, which allows you then to accept this thing that was already happening in your life. When you finally said, yeah, okay, family, I'm letting go, a lot of you probably discovered, oh, it was already happening anyway. So you're going to notice it in your body. You're not going to just renew that body. And a lot of you are really trying hard to do that. You're mentally thinking, I'm going to be younger, I'm going to be healthier. No, you're going to go new. You're not just going to fortify or youthify your current body.
Crap, really?
No, so give up trying. No, and I mean that seriously. It was actually a good input from dear Linda Visa. Crap, all this time I've been, using lotions. I've been trying to think positive about my mind. I've been trying to be youthful, and I've been trying to bring youthful energies into my body. You're just renewing something old, something you really don't want so much, rather than going new. Rather than going new. What is new? What is new when it comes to biology? It doesn't matter. You don't have to think your way through. You couldn't anyway. So what do? Allow, accept. You can make a choice saying, okay, I'm going to go new, not knowing what it really is, not knowing what happens next. And then allow. Then let it happen. And you're going to have your moments of sheer fear, terror, or doubt. I don't know which is worse, doubt or fear. Which do you think is worse? Doubt. I would tend to agree. I tend to agree. Doubt is nagging. It's not. Doubt is gray and boring, and it's kind of like just being suffocated slowly over a period of like 5 years. It's just agonizing. Versus fear, you feel it right away. Funny thing in fear is that you suddenly feel life, at least the desire for it, and a very dire, like a near-death experience, like, oh my God, I'm alive, but I'm going to die in a moment. Doubt is like, well, I don't know. Am I alive? Am I dead? And why am I thinking thoughts like this? And I shouldn't be thinking thoughts like this. And I don't know what I should be doing. That's doubt. It's an ugly, ugly energy. So it's going to happen in your body. Going new. What is it? Doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway. That's the funny thing. It's kind of the joke of enlightenment. It's going to happen anyway. You're going to worry about it? Yeah, you're laughing. Yeah. No, actually, it's such a beautiful point. And I believe it was Kuthumi who first brought it to Crimson Circle many years ago, but it's going to happen anyway. In a way, you could say it has happened, but why worry? Why worry? And that sounds nice, very philosophically nice, but then you walk out the door and it's like, oh, I'm going to worry. It's like, because you're in patterns. You're kind of in old patterns. It's coming to your mind new. And your mind doesn't understand it, doesn't really like it. Your mind is trying to renew. Your mind is trying to trick you and itself into thinking that you're working on something together, and you're just going to kind of, fix things up a little bit in here, call in the psychiatric construction remodeling crew and kind of fix things up because, they got a little out of balance there, and you're going to slap some paint on it and put in new carpet and try to ignore the bad odor that was always there. Ooh. Yeah, it's true. The mind has an odor. It's so old thoughts. Old thoughts are kind of like old cheese in the refrigerator. It's like, So it's going to happen to your thoughts. New. Get used to it. It's going to be frightening at first because you're going to feel like you're losing it. You're going to try to go back into patterns. You're going to try to go back into a lot of the way things were done before, the cycles. You're just trying to polish the cycles a little bit, make them a little bit better. Forget about it. The mind is going new, a new way of thinking. We have talked recently, particularly in Kihak, by the way. Sign up now for next year's program. It's going to be more dynamic than the other ones. We've talked in Kihak and here about going into the master's sense. And that is the new. That is the new for the mind. And the mind is going to try to pretend it's going to figure out the master sense. The mind's going to be like, yeah, this is what the master sense is, and this is how it works. No, you're just trying to renew the mind. You're going to go out of your mind into the master sense. Could happen while you're driving down the street, could happen at any moment, at any point. But it is happening. It is happening, absolutely. It goes back to this question. Is it about making a choice, or is it about accepting what's already going on? You accept it. When you choose it, it's just like going, oh, okay, I get it. I'm already traveling down the road in the car at 120 miles an hour. Now I'm just accepting that I am. You're already going into enlightenment. And it should be a great comfort for you, really a great comfort. But also there's that, well, but don't I have to do something? Shouldn't I? Shh. Breathe. Do something passionate. Create a great video. Write a book, whatever. And don't worry about how it's going to be taken. Just do something. Put yourself into life. If nothing else, as a distraction. So the mind is totally changing. You worry about it. You worry and you say, oh, God, I'm depressed. Or, oh, geez, I'm psychotic. Yeah, okay, well, you know what? Everybody is. No, everybody is. Join their club. I've done a lot of feeling into energies, and every human is totally screwed up. No, it's true. You'd have to be here doing this time after time after time after time again without stopping to say, hold on a second. What is this about? What do I want to do? So, no, every human is psychotic to a degree, some to a very, very large degree. The ones who question are the least psychotic, but they're made to feel to be the most psychotic. The ones who question are actually the sane ones, but then they compare themselves to the truly psychotic, the ones who are content with the pattern. And then they feel there's something wrong. You feel there's something wrong with you. No, not at all. So this new, everything will come new. Everything. And it's not just a nice little statement. It's not something that's just going to be happening, let's say, in 20 or 30 years from now. It's already started. We crossed that threshold, that point, a week or two ago. There was a build-up to it, and you felt it. And it was no coincidence that I had chosen the date of February 14, 2016, a while back even, for our are we going to keep dating, and when are we going to kiss? Because you could feel it was going to be coming to a head at about this time, and it's the new website, new things in your life. New is wonderful. Everybody wants new, or thinks they want new, but what they're really doing is just renewing. True new is very, very different. It'll show up in technology. It'll show up in business. It'll show up in everything from healthcare to relationships. Families will go new. There's been a pattern of families for as long as people have been fornicating, and that pattern has existed forever in the family core and the family nucleus. And there's people that are going to try to go back more so than ever to renewing, or what I call old. They're going to try to pull back because it scares the hell out of them. And they think it's got to be something, the devil is doing all this, or humankind is getting off balance, or God's upset. They make up all these inane excuses for going back to the past, and it won't work for them. It won't work. You found it out in your own life. When you try to go back and try to do it the old way right now, it doesn't work. So do something new in your life. Frightening to a degree, but it is so liberating and so new. It's so different. Do something new. When is the last time you did something new in your life? That long, eh? Hush falls over the audience. No, when's the last time you really did something new? I mean new, not just driving, taking a different street to work. That's just taking a different street to work. But something so new, you've never done it before. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. That's actually a fairly good definition of new. You have no idea what the outcome is going to be, but you're going to do it. You join Keyhawk, see, but that was new. Something so new that you don't know the outcome. The human will play it safe, and play it safe means stay in renewal, rather than say, I want to totally break out of this. I don't know what's going to happen. It's frightening, and it's liberating. It's frightening, and it's so full of passion. It's frightening, and, geez, why didn't I do new before this? Why did I wait so long? And then what happens? Doubt. Then you start wondering, well, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should wait, no, just do something really new in your life. Just amaze yourself, stun yourself by doing something totally new. And then watch, the world is going new. Nothing can just renew anymore. I mean, it'll go through some cycles of trying to renew, and then it'll blow apart. You can apply that to every major facet of life. Everything. And I know a lot of people are going to speculate, and there'll be conversations on your social media, but what does he mean about this? That's all going to go new. It may crumble first, but then it's going to go new. Everything. Anything you can think of is going to go new, including old traditions. Old traditions. Oh, they're going to have the toughest time with it, whatever that old institution or tradition was. And this is Calder doesn't like the example, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. I'm not justifying anything, but I'm giving you an example of the way things work. You have a lot of sacred, beautiful, ancient temples around the world, and groups, organizations, religions rever these. They maintain them. These become sacred spots for them. Not that that's right or wrong. It's just the way it is. And then you get terrorists who come along and blow them up, and the world screams, and oh, look what the terrorists are doing. Well, in a way, is it terrorists, or is it just that energy needed to be unlocked? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying watch how it happens. And I'm not saying go out and blow up ancient
thank you
temples.
for that disclaimer.
No, you don't have to, because if it's not a terrorist, it'll be a earthquake. If it's not an earthquake, it'll be a meteor coming down from heaven and boom, blowing it up. We've come to a point on this planet just in the past few weeks where everything now goes new. Imagine it this way. Everything is spinning. Everything is spinning. And sometimes the spin patterns are a little larger, and a little slower. Sometimes they're a little faster and a little tighter, but it just keeps spinning and spinning over and over again. Sometimes the cycles of life are polished. You add a little paint to them, you dust them off, you lubricate them, you clean them up, but the cycles keep going on and on. That is recycling. That is renewing. And it's just not going to work. So now you have these cycles of life, and applied to every facet of life, every institution in life, everything in life that you can possibly think of. So they're in their patterns, in their cycle, and then they go new. In other words, they go out of cycle, out of pattern, out of rhythm. They go new. Everything will go there. Some of the things will try desperately to stay in pattern, to stay within their cycles. And they're going to be justified by saying this is the way it's supposed to be, and this is the way God wants it to be, and this is the way we've done it for eons of time, and so therefore we're going to stay in that. And then it's like taking that rubber band on your wrist and pulling it and pulling it, pulling it until it breaks and snaps. And then it goes new. And it goes into the next level of reality. It's all driven, it's all caused by consciousness changing. If you thought February is intense, wait till March.
Nice.
Or April, we are March, or April, or May. But when you have the wisdom to understand what's happening, is everything on this planet, I'm not applying this to all the universe, but everything on this planet is newing. Watch the people you know as they try to stay in pattern. Watch the people you know as their lives are affected by something. So we have a combination of new from last month, having brother from out of town, breathing, cutting down trees with pole saws, and a few other things. I asked the question, what's new? Because the mind goes to old. What's new? Oh, geez, I bought a new outfit. You bought a new outfit a lot of times before. Most of you. Some of you still wear the same one. But you say, I moved. Well, it's pretty legit, but what was the underlying reason for moving? You've moved a lot before. That in itself is not new. You experience something a little bit different. In this case, the kind of the grace of going in there, cutting down. But I wouldn't qualify that as Adamus's new list. The new that's happening in your life right now is pretty much undetected, pretty much unaware, because it's happening at such a beautiful, simple, effortless inner level. And the new that you went through last month, everybody to a degree, is getting out of your way a little bit, easing up, getting out of your butt and into your and. Relaxing a little bit, stepping out of your way. That's new. A lot of times you've tried to be, more relaxed, or not quite so schizo, nervous, worried about everything. Doesn't last very long. But in the last month, every one of you has allowed yourself just a little peek at getting out of your way. There was a lot of thought about it before. We've talked about the I am, the divine, and there's a lot of thought about, okay, let's let it in. But it was thought. It wasn't actually doing it. And in the last 30 days, with a lot of nudging and a lot of consternation and a lot of late night, 2:30, I'm going to wake you up whether you have to go to work or not kind of days, said, could you just let go enough, just to let that little sliver of light in, to feel what it's like, to know that it's okay, that the human doesn't control all of this. That's a big step. That's new. We've had a lot of thought, a lot of discussion, but not a lot of experience related to that. That's huge. You may not even realize it in the human, in the but self. You might not even be aware, But then things start to change, kind of, like moving to a different location, like trying something a little different. That's not what's new. That's the result or manifestation of what's new. Willingness to change, to shift. But that in itself is not the new. The new is just for a moment letting go. Letting go. That's big. That's huge. The new that you're going to start to experience is generally not detectable. I'll get into that in a moment, but it's not coming from the mind yet. The new is coming from such a different place within you, you may not even be aware of what's happening, of what's new.